The idea of what if has intrigued historians, writers, and thinkers for centuries. It challenges the very nature of history as a linear progression, suggesting that different decisions, events, or outcomes could have led to dramatically different worlds. Alternate history, often referred to as counterfactual history, delves into these speculative scenarios, imagining what might have happened if key moments in history had taken a different path. These alternate realities open the door to endless possibilities, forcing us to reconsider the forces that shaped our world. Let's explore a few thought-provoking what-if scenarios and their potential consequences. Before we get started, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. 1. What if the Roman Empire never fell? The fall of the Roman Empire in 476 AD marked the end of ancient Roman dominance in Europe and the beginning of the Middle Ages. But what if Rome had not fallen? Would the European continent have avoided the so-called Dark Ages? In this alternate reality, Roman law, infrastructure, and culture could have persisted across Europe, potentially accelerating technological and political development. The spread of Christianity may have been more systematic, influencing European civilizations more swiftly. The rise of new kingdoms and the feudal system might have been delayed or even avoided entirely. Such a world would likely have looked very different by the time the Renaissance occurred, possibly sparking a scientific and intellectual awakening centuries ahead of schedule. 2. What if the American Revolution had failed? In 1776, the 13 American colonies declared independence from Great Britain, a decision that set the stage for the American Revolution. What if the revolution had failed? The United States would not have emerged as an independent nation, and the colonies may have remained under British control or been divided into different factions. The growth of democracy, which was largely inspired by American ideals, may have been stunted, and the British Empire could have maintained its influence over much of the Western Hemisphere for many more years. Additionally, without the United States' eventual rise to global power, the shape of world wars, colonialism, and international relations in the 19th and 20th centuries could have been entirely different. 3. What if World War I had been prevented? World War I was one of the most devastating conflicts in history, fundamentally altering the global balance of power. The war led to the downfall of empires, the creation of new nation-states, and the rise of fascism and communism. But what if the war had been prevented? Without the war, Europe might have remained a collection of powerful empires, and the geopolitical map could have remained largely unchanged. The Russian Revolution may not have occurred, and the Bolsheviks' rise to power could have been delayed or avoided. The Treaty of Versailles, which set the stage for World War II, would not have been written, and the subsequent rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party might have been prevented. The effects on colonialism, international diplomacy, and the global economy would have been far-reaching, potentially altering the course of the 20th century. 4. What if the Nazis had won World War II? One of the darkest alternate history scenarios involves the idea of a world where Nazi Germany emerged victorious in World War II. If the Nazis had won, Europe would have likely fallen under a totalitarian regime, with Hitler's vision of a greater Germany and Aryan supremacy imposed across much of the continent. The United States, after being unable to defeat Germany and Japan, might have entered into a Cold War-like standoff with a global fascist regime. The Holocaust could have continued on an even larger scale, with millions more lives lost. The world map would have been redrawn, and the ideological battle between fascism, communism, and democracy would have taken a drastically different turn. This alternative world might have been defined by intense technological advancement in warfare, genetics, and propaganda, but at an unimaginable cost in terms of human rights and freedom. 5. What if the Soviet Union had never collapsed? The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 was one of the most significant events of the 20th century, marking the end of the Cold War and the beginning of a unipolar world led by the United States. But what if the Soviet Union had never collapsed? The Cold War may have continued, with the Soviet Union maintaining its influence in Eastern Europe, Asia, and beyond. The global ideological divide between capitalism and communism would have persisted, and the geopolitical competition between the US and the USSR could have led to more proxy wars, nuclear arms races, and political instability. Without the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe, the democratization and integration of countries like Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic into the European Union might have never happened, fundamentally altering the European political landscape. The lack of this shift could have delayed the rise of China as a global power, with the USSR remaining as a counterweight to American influence. 6. What if the Internet had never been invented? In the late 20th century, the Internet revolutionized communication, business, education, and entertainment. What if the Internet had never been invented? The world would be radically different, especially in terms of globalization. Without the Internet, the flow of information would be slower, and global trade would likely operate on a more localized basis. Communication would remain largely face-to-face, by phone, or through traditional media like newspapers and television. Many industries, from e-commerce to social media to digital entertainment, would never have developed, leaving a large gap in technological advancement. 7. What if Japan had not bombed Pearl Harbor? The attack on Pearl Harbor by Japan in 1941 led the United States to enter World War II, which ultimately shifted the balance of power in favor of the Allies. What if Japan had not attacked? The United States might have continued its policy of isolationism and delayed entering the war. Without American involvement, the Axis powers, including Nazi Germany, might have had a better chance of winning the war, leading to a very different post-war world order. The course of the war in the Pacific would have been altered, and Japan's empire might have expanded even further. 8. What if the Cold War had turned hot? The Cold War was defined by the ideological, military, and political standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, and although the two superpowers never directly fought, the possibility of nuclear war always loomed large. What if the Cold War had turned into a hot war? A direct conflict between the two superpowers, especially during moments like the Cuban Missile Crisis, could have resulted in devastating global consequences. A nuclear war might have led to mass casualties, the destruction of entire cities, and irreversible environmental damage. The world map would have looked drastically different, with much of Europe, the Middle East, and Asia potentially becoming battlefields, and the political landscape would have been reshaped by a conflict that could have resulted in the complete destruction of one or both superpowers. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, subscribe to our channel before you go. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to Amazing Education. We're all about making learning fun, exciting, and innovative. Our channel brings you a mix of funny, educational, and thought-provoking content designed to inform, inspire, and entertain. From mind-blowing innovations to positive stories that uplift, we're here to make your day better while helping you discover something new, learned, laugh, grow. Amazing Education.